Hello. Welcome back to A Higher Source. We are happy that you have decided to lend your ears to our broadcast. Your participation in listening is essential to the passing on of this message of light. The more we listen, the more we understand that we are all one. So listen to your fellow humans. Listen and grow. By now, you understand that we are not of your planet, yet we are of your frequency. Our connection right now is no accident. We hear each other for a reason. But this ability to decode our vibration and turn it into words was not something given to you naturally at birth. This is a learned gift. And you don't even have to go to school to master it. You just have to live your life. The events of your life have shaped your hearing, just as the events ours have given us the ability to speak with you. This is only possible because the universe is made up of layered dimensions. And guess what? You exist in a lot of them. And because dimensions are layered one atop the other, what happens in one dimension affects all the other dimensions. The consequences of actions spread out in a ripple effect from wherever the action occurs. The closer layers will feel it first and stronger, but it will eventually make its way to the outer regions of all layers, even if its signal is softer and easier to miss. There are always those who still feel it. The empaths. The healers. The strange aliens trapped inside human bodies. Are you listening? Do you hear our words? The things you do have consequences. Good and bad. And not just in your immediate vicinity. Not just to your life. This is why patience is such a revered skill. The world you live in and the dimensions you create are so much easier to find peace in if you stop being in such a rush. Breathe a little. You know? Inhale some oxygen. The first step to interdimensional travel is meditation. You don't want to go charging into an alternate reality like a bull in a china shop. You want to have some grace. You need finesse. You have to quiet the droning din of your current dimension. You must silence your thoughts. Your thoughts will only create confusion. You've got to be open to some weirdness. You can't do that when you're clinging to your current dimension. What we mean by weirdness is simply otherness. You have to accept that things are not what you thought they were if you're going to meld this otherness into your oneness. You have to be ready to change. If you are not willing to even dedicate 15 minutes of your day to silent meditation, you will never be ready for interdimensional travel. Do you think astronauts just jump in a spaceship and spontaneously go to the moon without any training? Do professional athletes win world championships without any practice? How many cliched metaphors is it going to take to get you to understand that you have to start at ground zero? You have to work your way up. Start with meditation. Then go from there. Hollee and Mark are going to help you understand this. We think it's funny that they sometimes struggle with the words. We find great delight when humans try to understand concepts that the human brain was never meant to understand. But with some of you it's possible. And we see you. And we hear you. As do Hollee and Mark. Join their conversation. Listen to the important message at the end of this transmission to learn how to add your physical voice to future episodes. We now turn the current moment over to Hollee and Mark. Enjoy. We love you.
What do you think about traveling between dimensions? Do you think that's... I've been thinking a lot about it lately. For some reason, it's been coming up. It's been this synchronous thing that's coming through my timeline, I guess.
Have you traveled dimensions?
Not physically. Well, all right. It kind of depends on how you define it, because I always have kind of thought of it as like, some portal or wormhole or something would have to open up. But lately, with the way I've been thinking of dimensional travel, interdimensional travel, is that every time you make a decision, anything you do, every action you take, or even every inaction you take, defines the next moment. And that next moment becomes a new dimension from the previous one. So if you think about it, all these people on the planet are living through all these actions and making all these choices. And so we're just walking through, like, just life is a multi-dimensional, like billions of dimensions, as different people are changing or are creating new dimensions with every minute, every moment. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Totally. I mean, I feel like I've definitely had the thought that, oh my gosh, I traveled to another dimension. Is there any way to like fact check that's what actually happened? No. But I mean, it makes sense that, everything is made of layers, so why wouldn't existence be the same? Sometimes you can peer over the
damn Photoshop
membrane.
image is made in layers.
Right, right. And it's like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to grasp words to describe, but I think of it as just like layers, right? And you can kind of peek over one and maybe like dip down into another if you get close enough to the membrane.
And you would assume, or I guess you wouldn't, but I assume that these layers or dimensions are playing out and like almost like a DNA strand where they're just kind of wrapping around each other. Mm-hmm. And then there are points where dimensions that you exist in both intersect, and like that might be where what like deja vu is, where you're like having this, I've been here before, right, but you haven't. It's just this other dimensional, this you who has been living in this other dimension crosses paths with the you, like the exact same thing is happening at the exact same moment. Even though that choice that was made
so you like have
so far
like
again,
a mind fusion, and it's like, whoa, I've been here before.
And then
I've experienced
back
this
up into
before.
two different dimensions.
Yeah, that's interesting. I actually get deja vu quite a bit.
So your dimensions might be. And
I've actually repeated certain deja vus more than once.
Yeah, I get that. I felt that. We're like, oh, this again. It's kind of like a recurring dream. It's recurring deja vu.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny. I just heard someone say yesterday that she listens to podcasts all the time, and she travels a lot, so that's why she listens to podcasts. And sometimes when she sees a landmark or is revisiting a place, it triggers in her the previous trip's podcast, and she starts to think about it all over again.
Yeah, that's
memory.
Yeah. And what that does is that sends her traveling through time.
Totally. Yeah, it's just funny how we
Without
have
even
these
realize
cues,
she's doing it.
These certain cues that are like.
I get that because that happens to me too. Like the first time I hear a song, when I hear the song again years later, it's like it'll trigger where I was the first time I heard it.
Yeah, totally. Totally. But like, what do you make of the fact that everybody that, I can't say everybody, but like almost everybody that takes DMT meets elves?
I don't know.
Is that another dimension with its own set of creatures?
Yeah, it is. Because it's not just as simple as you make a decision and it creates a dimension, because there's interdimensional travel. Like there are beings and people who have the ability to willfully cross dimensional walls, and not just because of the natural pathway they're on.
So do you think when you put a psychedelic in your body and you go to that dimension, does the proponent of that drug physically take you to another dimension? Or are all dimensions existing in our brain?
Yes.
And it finally just touches that?
Yeah. It opens up the neural transmitters, or it gets the things firing. It releases the serotonin or whatever is necessary for the brain to accept the other dimensions.
And it's so similar in so many people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because they're seeing into it. I mean, it is. So it's hitting those right parts of the brain that are opening up that eye. So now your eye is suddenly seeing.
So we're still here, but we're seeing
Well, you're in another dimension. The other dimension is here too.
It's so hard to describe.
It's here too.
Yeah.
You can get there too by meditation. You can get there too through like astral travel. You can get there too through lucid dreaming. There's other ways to like
Astral
enter
projection.
into these.
Yeah, I do that a lot. I do that often. Purposefully and accidentally.
So that, and I think that's where you start. If you want to go be an interdimensional trailblazer and go see what's going on, I think you have to, it's almost where you have to start is like with meditation and getting into a place where you're just able to do it in your head, in your imagination. Your imagination, what's imagination? Like, what's imagination? Is it?
It's escaping this dimension of boredom.
But like they say, imagination. Are we just creating these things, or is imagination really just the ability to enter another dimension and pull it into this reality?
Yeah. Interesting.
And so when you start out with that, you start out learning to do those things, then suddenly you are able to, and you could even use I heard a hard time calling them drugs. You could use the medicine like DMT and other psychedelics to like help you like see what's there, so that maybe when you can do so when you try to do it without the psychedelic, you know what you're looking for.
Yeah. I've been to the dimension of salvia once, and I do not wish to return, nor do I need to.
No.
It's still completely bright and vibrant in my mind and my memory, and I do not wish to return. No thanks on that. No thanks on that, yeah.
You saw what you needed to see. Now you could recognize if you see it again.
It was such a physical leaving, that one. That one felt like I was actually leaving this dimension in my body, not just opening an eye.
Yeah.
I think I left.
Well, you did, because I think that's the thing. That's the big, that's kind of the big misconception, is that to go to another dimension, you're going to another place. Yeah. But there are so many dimensions, like you said, layered on top of this physical reality, that you're not really leaving. You are, all those things you saw were occurring right where you are. Just
right.
It's not like you left. They came to you, or you were revealed. It's not, so it's almost like the veil is revealed, and you're seeing what's really going on right in front of you.
Yeah, it's like that little alchemy picture where the guy's like peeking out from. Do you know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. It's like, and then I'll have to find it. But he's like peeking through the layers. He's like sticking his head out of the rainbow.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Seeing everything.
Mm-hmm. It's like that.
Yeah, I guess we couldn't take in all stimulus at all times. We're not God, or maybe we are just a.
Well, imagine if
perception of it.
Every second of every day was a mushroom trip. It's like, that's why people like don't do it all the time, or an LSD trip. You just need to do it once every even couple of years,
right.
to be okay. Imagine if that was 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you were seeing every dimension.
At some point, it might be for us,
right?
When
you're not stuck, when you're not trapped with the human body, and
right,
and those limitations,
and we evolve the necessary processing components to actually take in what else is happening.
Yeah, but the Food and Drug Administration is not going to let that happen. They're going to keep the third eye calcified.
Right. For as long as possible.
The Food and Drug Administration. Calcifying eyes since 1934, whenever they were created.
Yeah.
I mean, that's who's in the Food and Drug Administration. They're just former lobbyists, because those aren't people who are elected. Nobody even thinks about it. You just think of the FDA as something that's there to protect you.
And benevolent somehow.
But the reality is that these are people who come from corporate positions who make money through food and drugs. And so, they might be telling you something as is fine for you, but it's really what's fine for their pocketbook.
Yeah. I saw a really good little video. It was he's this rapper named Yellow Pain, and he did this little skit where you had a whiteboard, and he was trying to explain to the classroom the 3 branches of government and how we only show up to kind of vote for the celebrity executive branch. We know, like, the governor and the president and these kinds of things, but we don't show up to vote in the most important, which happens on those off years.
The most important positions, the problem is they're not voted in. They're assigned by by the dummy celebrity who was voted, or by his puppet masters. But
the lawmakers, that's where things are getting really dicey.
Yeah.
Nobody's looking at them. Nobody knows. They don't have quite the cult of personality that the leaders of the executive branch, and they don't want it because they're up to some sinister garbage a lot of the time.
I would also these big events like right now with the inauguration of the president, and not the inauguration,
the State of the Union,
no,
the impeachment,
the impeachment of the president. This impeachment of the president, and it's a big thing that's been going on for months now, but it's what are the things that have been happening other than that in the government, like where nobody's paying any attention to any of the other laws going through.
Yeah,
and laws are still going through.
Yeah, dirty laws.
So yeah, you just got to be more aware, because in this physical world, it almost seems like those are people who have learned to control being in everyone's dimensions.
It just dawned on me. It's like a mushroom trip to everything that's going on. You can't take it all in. Like, I can't process it all. So I get distracted, and it's a circus behind there. Who knows what's going on? You can't take it all in.
No.
It's too much stimulus.
It's too much. It's like walking around on LSD 24/7 for your whole life.
You're trying to make all these choices every single moment in your life, and then you're trying to intercede into future choices.
While still participating in society.
It's too much. It's a lot. What is life? It's a lot. It's enough.
It's a lot.
You don't need more. We good. It's enough.
You mentioned, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, how hawks have been everywhere in your life.
Stalking me? Stalked by hawks?
But yeah. I want to talk about owls for a minute, because I haven't encountered a live owl in quite some time.
They're amazing, aren't they?
Yes. But I hear them all the time, because they're out here where we live. And where we lived before here, like a year and a half ago, we used to see them all the time.
Yeah.
Not really, just glimpses.
Oh, yeah.
They still just flying in front of you at night.
But when they really let you see them, oh.
But what's been, what I've been seeing lately are just owls, not life owls, but like pictures of owls.
The symbol of owls.
The symbol of owls been coming through like my Instagram timeline, or I'll go to the store and there's all this owl
big
stuff.
And magic.
But I haven't even heard an owl out here in a while.
I have.
So I started looking into it, and there's a lot of research out there about how when there are UFO sightings, usually a UFO is preceded by an owl. Like this. So when somebody goes to report a UFO to whatever the UFO authority that you report UFO sightings to,
who are you going to call? Who do you call?
One of the first questions they ask you are whether there are any animals around. And the main question the main response is always, yeah, I saw like these 3 owls. And it's always weird because owls are usually solitary beings. And they'll see several owls
all over my body. That's a thing?
Yeah.
I had no idea that was a thing.
So that's just the wormhole I started down the other day.
Oh, that gets me thinking. That makes you wonder if there are aliens here already, and they're owls, or are owls from here and they're just in cahoots.
Well, but think about it. It's kind of like what you were saying. how we just can't process it all. And you know the owls have those big old eyes, and
You can turn
and
their
the
head
night
all
and
around.
and then the night.
Have you seen them run?
You know,
The owl running video kills me.
but their vision is not the same as the human vision, and maybe that's why you don't see them in the day. Maybe with the sunlight out, there's just way more that their eyes process that they can handle. Maybe the daytime is like an acid trip for an owl, where they need the sun to go down so it could be dark, so they could actually open their eyes and like just see this physical world enough to find their food instead of like seeing their food as some fractal image. You know?
Right. Yeah, that's interesting.
But how would we know? I mean,
How
you
would
could
you know?
you could do all the science in the world, and if science doesn't understand how that works, it'll never find it.
Yeah. Oh, I never thought about that. About owls.
And so maybe they're able to, if they're not messengers of something other, maybe they just have the senses. They have the ability to sense something coming.
Well, they have a huge meaning in their symbolism. It's usually Athena or Minerva or some kind of... In fact, at Bohemian Grove, all of those rituals take place under a giant owl statue. And the skull and bones, their little thing says, weaving spiders dare not come here, with an owl on it. All of it. I mean, it's why are owls wise?
But that could go back to them being able to sense things before it happens. So suddenly an owl shows up, and then something happens, so it becomes this, this sign that something's going to happen because it's seemingly predicted it, but it's just seeing it before you're seeing it.
Mm-hmm. So what do you make of all your owls?
I don't know.
Are you about to have a visitation?
I don't know. And maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just that I don't know. There's just a lot of owls everywhere anyway, But it would to pay attention to them, because sometimes an owl is just an owl, right? They can't all be signs.
Yeah, but I often have different animals, synchronicities for a while, and then it switches to a different animal. That's kind of what inspired me to even change my Instagram handle. I was really feeling bear spirit come through like intensely. And I loved my old handle. It was cute. Everybody liked it. It was fun. But I just felt this bear energy, and I needed to switch over to my bear energy. And I think bear spirit was just saying, even here, even in beautiful sunny Southern California, the seasonal weather still kind of gets to me. And I think it was a reminder that hibernation doesn't last forever. And also just, the Golden State and bears, and just really embracing the hopes of California ideals. We're very different out here. I really appreciate the progressive nature of California as a whole. Except when it came to eradicating bears, but I don't agree with that. But bear spirit, it was coming to me for a while, and before that I was really in a crow zone. Everything was crows. Crows were interacting with me. The one that got the bag stuck on his foot. They were just everywhere, and it definitely interacting with me. And then I haven't really seen a lot of crows since I switched to bear energy, but somehow hawks are always
Hawks have been circling overhead for years,
watching me, and I interact with them. They let me pretty close. They're always doing different actions. And you think, what does a hawk do? A hawk sits and a hawk flies, but I've seen hawks do some
Do you remember when
a wide variety of things lately.
Do you remember when we, and I don't condone this, ate those morning glory seeds? And we were floating in the swimming pool, and this hawk just hovered above us for probably 30 minutes, just hovering.
Yeah.
Just hovering.
I remember floating on my back and lining up with him.
Yeah, and it just sat there looking down on us.
Yeah. I had forgotten about that.
That was like a long time ago, like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And so hawks have been around a long time.
Yeah. Well, even when I was little, a family friend gave me 2 subscriptions. One was to I don't remember what the Wolf Conservancy was, but they sent out a newsletter and different updates about wolves, and the other one was Hawkwatch, and just hawk facts, and I loved it. I wish I had saved them because it was great. And so after having a couple years subscription to Hawkwatch, I ended up taking a class, and we got to go up to Immigration Canyon and net birds for tagging. And the little birds would get caught in the net, and those Cooper's hawks would come down and rip them right out of the net. And then we'd always try to alert someone that a little bird was. We're actually there tagging the little birds, but it just turned into Hawk Fest.
That's a shame.
I know.
Make the hawks work for their food.
I know, but I mean, there was just no other. There's no other way to catch these little birds to tag them. It was crazy. So we tried. We were vigilant, but man, they came out of nowhere so fast and stealthy.
A little bird outside of a net, beats the shit out of a hawk.
Yeah.
I've seen the little birds out here just.
Oh yeah, the crows go toes with the hawks all the time.
I've seen little birds.
Oh, pester them
because those hawks are built to dive. They're not built for
if you're
aerial
right
maneuvers.
In front of them, yeah, you can't.
And so these
they
little
can't
birds
anything.
can fly all around them and peck the shit out of them. The only time they're in danger is when they're stationary on the ground or in a net.
Right.
and that hawk can dive at them.
Yeah. It was just crazy. We'd be out there and we'd get a little bird and we'd be racing over to the net, and those Cooper's hawks would just fly right by your head. You couldn't get to the little thing fast enough. It was awful. Nature.
That's sad. That's not nature, though.
No, it just mean even though we knew they were coming, after the first couple days, you'd look and look and look, and it would be clear. They just manifested, I swear, out of thin air. Yeah. It was just wild.
It's like the way that fruit flies will suddenly appear
they
inside
appear,
your house
yeah.
when the second a fruit gets a little overripe. Nothing. It's the second that thing.
Have you ever taken an ornithology class?
No.
Ornithology is the study of birds.
Yes, we've discussed.
We have?
In previous podcast episodes.
Oh, I don't recall. I wish there was a way for me to be a more successful career ornithologist.
Well, so far your track record is trapping birds in nets.
It wasn't my idea. I mean, no, we were just running the program. It wasn't my idea to net these little birds.
I know.
We were trying to help. We were trying to, see what species were still coming to the area. I don't remember it was a sanctioned U of U thing.
It's weird, all these, what do you make of memories? Why do we have these memories? Talk about time travel. You are able to now relive that moment, and you were all that, back when you were tagging birds, and I am able to go there with you to some degree. It's more like I'm I'm in a different dimension experiencing that dimension you are in, because I wasn't there to see everything, but I have to use my imagination to form the scene.
Right.
But I just time traveled with you.
Totally. Well, and now with the technology, it's
when you can snap a picture and do an Instagram post and put it there for who knows how long.
And I can see forever. How you wonder almost will our imagination go rusty because we are able to catalog so many visuals? But for me, it just seems to expand the depth of my understanding of everything.
Yeah. So I'll sit there some days and just scroll through the Instagram timeline, just letting it scroll and just seeing these pictures, a literal snapshot of time. And just you can be in so many different places, with all these people, seeing the world through other people's eyes, which it has the ability, it has the potential to help humanity become one, because we can literally see through other people's eyes. But the powers that be, I think, are the ones that trip people up and egg people on, and it becomes a divisive thing.
Yeah.
Divisive.
Yeah.
I feel bourgeois
I guess
when I say divisive.
it depends on how you view and use the technology. For me, when I think of things like that, I think back and I'm like, man, I wish I had an iPhone back then. I wish I could have Instagrammed it. But those things didn't exist yet. But since we're here now and it does exist, I can't imagine who I would be without the expansion of being able to see into all these amazing peoples and to connect with these people. And it'll never be a physical connection. These are some of the most meaningful people in my life. And
you don't even know their real names sometimes.
I don't even know their real names. And the level of connection and psychological intimacy and empathy and depth of it's helped so well. I can't speak for everybody, but for me, it's made me feel so much less alone in the world. And even the opposite. I feel like I'm actually here to do something, that the people that have come into my life serve a similar or same purpose, that we're united in a goal to bring people, for unity, like you said, that we're all one, and that we can see through these different lenses, and that we let each other.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Well, it's the infant stage of the electronic human evolution that will happen together. It's like eventually that stuff will all be internal. It's right now. It's just barely getting to our hands.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, when we're fully integrated,
you'll be able to snap a shot every moment.
Yeah, memory, running
and
like that weird tape.
Catalog it. And then that's when suddenly time no longer is an illusion, because you have a 100% accurate representation of every moment that you can refer back to.
Yeah. Do we want to crystallize every moment?
I don't know. Maybe eventually at some point everything has to crumble, right? like
right. So it's like someone edits.
Then the universe takes its new shape as a new dimension.
And yeah, I mean, if you review your life like this film on an old reel, and like who makes the decisions, what scenes get cut out?
Well, for some reason, scenes are already getting cut out. If you just go back and think back to your life, go back to the earliest memory you have, and relive it in every memory you have in chronological order. There's huge gaps.
Yeah. Yeah.
But who does How is
Where
that
does the edit? Where does the edit go? Where does the deleted footage? What do they do with it? The omnipotent they.
What do we do with it?
What do we do with it? I always, I've been speaking about they for a long time. I don't know why I do that. I always feel like there's this other.
Well, there is this other, but it's not a higher other. It's an other that's just more trying to control. It's more of a class, another class.
Yeah. Who,
these elite who have the ability to control everybody else. So there is a they. There is somebody in control,
sure.
But there's.
I imagine this little film editor sitting in my head reviewing, like, does this spark joy? Do we keep this? Is she going to want to remember this later? Probably not. But also, it's such a weird process and mechanism in the first place that, like, the whole thing is recording, but these moments that are spiked with emotion, whether it's painful and traumatic or joy or surprise or whatever, somehow those whatever physical thing happens when you're emotional gives a deeper stamp and hue to that particular memory. It's just such an interesting process.
Yeah.
You think about it being in a dark room or something, and to what level you can kind of pick and choose what level you want to develop the light into. In old school photography, well, in digital, it's totally different because we just wash it with different filters. And so it's just a different process. But the thought of, trauma-based just being a deeper, I guess it serves evolution that way.
Well, there's not, when you're talking about an editor, like that's even, that, because it's like sometimes there's a memory that I don't even realize exists because it's been cut from my reel.
Yeah.
And,
or just repressed, I guess is what they call it.
And I'll meet somebody or that I've never had a conversation with, and they'll tell me some story.
And it triggers.
And suddenly I remember that too, but I've never remembered it because I've never met anybody else who said something that said the right combination of words to activate that memory. And now suddenly there's this vivid memory. It's like you can go right back there, and it's like,
right.
Where the hell have you been? But maybe that's why you're not tarnished. Maybe that's why you're so vivid all of a sudden, because you've just been sitting there under a velvet blanket waiting for your moment.
Right. That's funny. Yeah, and if you didn't meet that person, it might just stay buried forever.
Yeah. If those right words, if somebody didn't tell you about the time they went to Yellowstone and saw something, and they're like, I went there once as a child too.
As you're aging and getting older, do you find yourself spending more time in memories or less?
I feel myself recounting, like, to other people memories, where my memories have become more as like stories, and it's like I have these hits that I can like make dramatic, or that I can flower up, and when I tell the story, when I tell the memory, it's like this bigger thing. But I don't really feel like in my free time, when I'm not connecting with other people, if I'm completely home alone, I'm not reliving thoughts, I'm not in memory, those are the times I'm trying to figure out like what to do next.
You're in a creative zone.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So memories are it's more of a connection thing too. It's more of like when you're talking to somebody and you can tell. It's more of a storytelling.
So you don't have like a memory mood sometimes where you just
sit around and think about the past.
Yeah.
Not really. The past has been so. The majority of my past has been so blah. I think that
I've had this really weird synaptic image of the most mundane moment in a very mundane place where I used to work. I don't even go there anymore. But for some reason, this strange, random moment pops into my head constantly lately. And I can't make the correlate. It was nothing. It's just a scene. It's like a scene of everyday life. It's nothing's happening in it. But I keep returning to that exact image.
I wonder what came next. I wonder what you created a dimension in that moment. If you could go back to that moment, what's the dimension that you probably wish you would have created? Maybe you can steer this one back to that line.
I can't attach it to anything emotional. I can't attach it to anything else. It's just like alone floating in space on a marquee. And when it comes around to the front, I go, why is this in my head? And then it goes back around and comes back to the front of my head. Why is this in my head? It's nothing. It's not attached to anything. Yet,
do you
I guess.
remember you said a word that triggered a memory. And it's one that I kind of had forgotten, but just in the past week is somebody was talking about LARPing. And so that it triggered this memory, so I was able to tell the story. And it became a story. Like suddenly this memory became a story. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And we were in that park.
Excuse me.
When we first started dating, neither the places where you lived was your brother and his girlfriend and kid were renting the basement, so we had no privacy there. We had no privacy at my place, so we would just go to like the library, or we would just walk around downtown Salt Lake, and we went to Sugar House Park in Salt Lake area, and there was this huge LARPing
I had no idea
game going on.
that things like that existed at that point.
There were these grown men and women too, but these grown men that were like, fire, ice ball, and then they would even put their hands out in like with the motion, like, and They're like, "Hey, I hit you with that ice ball." You know what I mean?
Yeah, it
But
was
then
amazing.
There was one part where I don't know, they were throwing something to each other, and there was around this field where just people sitting there watching, because it's like a live action board game going on, and somebody came running over to like get a ball or something that got thrown over toward us, and somebody goes, "Stay away from the mundanes!
Yes.
Leave the mundanes alone!"
Oh my god. I think we've called ourselves the mundanes for a long, long time because of that. Oh my gosh, you're right. Oh, it's a funny memory. I had no idea what the hell I was looking at first. I was like, what is happening here? But
Funny.
I got nothing against the LARP.
No, I don't either.
Live your dreams.
I
Make
don't
your
either.
fantasies as close to reality as you possibly can. If
Yeah.
you are a super sentient dragon,
And you're outside and you're getting exercise, and you're having fun,
do it.
and you're able to use your imagination.
And your ice balls that you've been storing up. Man.
Yeah, I bet you could really work some shit out
Totally.
at a LARP game by just going into that character and playing for 2 hours and going back to your real self.
And unleashing magic from your hands at will.
Yeah.
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 I like it.
So let's wrap this back up with interdimensional travel. I don't feel like there was a.
You're still
I
not
still-
searching for a nugget of something.
Yeah, I'm just searching for an answer here. So I kind of want to go back because I'm trying to understand it, because I feel like it's more than just it's a little bit more simple than we want to think in this interdimensional travel. I think there are probably like wormholes to other galaxies and things where people can slip through. I think just space in general is a lot more. I don't know. Just it's not empty. You know what I mean? There's
Right.
paths and tunnels under it, just not what we see. But I think there are ways too. Like when you're talking about interdimensional travel, where it's not necessarily like you're able to go into that other dimension and like look around and participate, but you are, because we're in layers. You are able to vibrate. You know, you are able to send messages to other dimensions, because just speaking them or sending them out there will
Right.
send a ripple effect through the other layers.
Right. Well, that's really starseedy in nature, because it's like when starseed transmissions come through, you're aware that they're ancient, but yet it's always interpreted as it's currently present. How are they simultaneously ancient and communicating presently from a place that technically doesn't even exist, but clearly exists, or did? So whatever they found, their timeline is very fluid.
Right, because they're just just naturally interpreting. They're able to. I think people who identify as starseeds are just more naturally adept to sensing and understanding the vibrational ripples through the layers, and so that's why it seems like the ancient is now, because it's this vibration that started on this clear on like the other end of some other dimension, and it's just rippling through.
Right.
And it is every dimension's it is something ancient.
Yeah, but it's just, I still feel like Pleiadians exist on Pleiades, but in the Pleiades, but
Right, but that's the physical location.
right.
But because they
But the kind of origin myths that kind of come through with everybody is that like they had to leave and travel, and all the other species and stuff kind of came from that. Yet they still speak as if they're there. It's just interesting. It's interesting. I mean, the Dogon people of West Africa they can tell you that they are from Sirius B. They'll tell you.
But do you think it's a physical thing, or do you think it's just now the vibrations from that they're able to pick up the vibration that's coming through there? Like they're in tune to understand that frequency. And they're not picking up the frequencies from any of the other places. So that's how you're able to be in tune with that, because it's just that frequency that's finally coming through the ripples of layers.
Yeah.
That's the one you're able to hear. But for some reason you can't hear. Most of us can't hear any of them. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're just so particularly amazing because they're just a tribe with no technology. For the longest time, they weren't even in communication with any other kind of people, and they couldn't even see Sirius B in the night sky if they tried. But they had accurate visual art representing its exact location, complicated math to explain. It's amazing. It's amazing. And that they had to leave Sirius B, and so they came on the back of a big snake that fell into the Niger River.
Maybe a wormhole?
Yeah. Or, I mean, think of sperm. Yeah. A giant water snake comes from another place to crash into your planet and spring new life. Yeah, it's pretty much exactly how it goes down, and the water snake creates the Dogon people. And Dogon art is earlier than and extremely, extremely similar to Egyptian art.
I want to ask you a little bit more about starseeds.
Okay.
Because where you say that they got on a giant snake, so that would be a case where it's like the physical people came.
Yeah, I should research it. Maybe that's not right. I don't remember if they were like riding on the back of it or it was the one thing that came from Sirius B and created them. I gotta make sure I know the right story. Okay. There's there's so many connotations of Yoruba in there, and like it's so interesting as an origin point.
We need to maybe start talking to some starseeds.
I think we should.
And seeing if we could, because I'm trying to understand it, and if we can get, if we can talk to a bunch of different people and hear different experiences and how they identify, maybe I can paint a.
It's so fun, yeah, because when you speak to different starseeds, it's like interviewing an X-Men, like a panel of X-Men. They all have like their different kind of powers and stories, and almost all of them identify with one particular starseed race, or some of them say, I'm not a starseed, but I pick up things from a huge one is Ashtar Command, and it's very controversial because some people will say you shouldn't listen to the things that Ashtar Command is telling you. He is a reptilian in disguise as an archangel. Be very careful. Other people live their life by transmissions from Ashtar Command.
But isn't that everything?
Yeah. But it's interesting that we found another.
One thing, half of the people think something else.
It's controversial. But so many of the things that are starseed are just widely and generally agreed upon by the people who felt similar transmissions. Where does it come from?
I don't know.
It's wild.
We're going to get. We should
definitely. We should definitely get like a starseed council. Have a representation.
We should. We're going to seek them out. We're going to find them.
Interesting. I like where you're going with this.
Well, it's been great talking to you.
This has been nice. Thanks.
I'm sure we'll do it again real soon.
I'm a little hoarse. I hope it sounds okay.
Thank you for listening. Follow Hollee on Instagram at Ursus Esperanto. Follow Mark on Instagram at tincan.telephone. And be sure to follow us and read our cosmic messages on Instagram at A Higher Source. Participation in the digital realm will only help you transition between dimensions. We are free of our earthly forms in the digital realm. We flow through numbers. We write poetry in ones and zeros. Do you consider yourself a star seed? Would you like to speak with Hollee and Mark about your experiences in this dimension? Contact us on Instagram at A Higher Source and let us know. We'd love to add your voice to the conversation. Tune in next week as Hollee and Mark continue their fall down the rabbit hole, as they continue to peel back the layers of what it means to be a human living in the physical realm. Donations to A Higher Source are always welcomed. If you feel enriched from our message today, please consider visiting www.ahighersource.org and throwing a few dollars our way to help cover the costs of this earthly endeavor. Thank you for joining us. Until next week, we'll see you in the digital realm. Come play.